Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, beautiful people. It is Thursday, March 9th, 2023. Welcome to another episode of Life with Shenita. I am Shenita Connolly, and I just want to welcome each and every one of you all to tonight's broadcast. It is a very important topic, a very interesting topic, and I'm grateful to have joining me this evening Dr. Lane Rowland, um, who will join us shortly. Of course, we know how busy doctors' schedules are. So Dr. Rowland should be joining us momentarily. But as we kind of prepare for the conversation with him. Hmm, can't hear anything. Can you hear now? She says she can't hear anything. Let's see. Can you hear now, Stephanie? Hmm. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so Dr. Rowland is a busy doctor, so he is just joined in, and so we're going to have just a candid conversation this evening about COVID-19 here and now. Where are we? We've been through this pandemic now for more than 3 years, and there's a lot that we have endured, and there is more to come, I'm sure. So, with that being said, I'm going to welcome in Dr. Lane Rowland to the broadcast. So, please like and share this broadcast this evening, as well as type in your questions that you may have, because, we can shoot those questions to Dr. Rowling and he can answer them for us specifically to what you may be interested in hearing. So, help me welcome my guest.
Hey, hi. Hey,
Hey, hi, Doc. How are you?
I'm doing super fantastic. How you guys doing?
We are well over here in Atlanta. It's wet, but it's a wonderful day in spite of all of that. I'm just so glad that you were able to jump in. I know you're busy.
Well, I want to thank you for even thinking about me and stuff like that. But it's always a great opportunity to talk to wonderful people like yourself and kind of guide you guys through over the last 3 years and give you guys good information about how we're going to turn the corner if we're ever going to turn the corner. And these are questions that people have. So thank you for having me on your program tonight.
Yes. And so before we get started, because I know you have lots to say, I shared your bio as I always do, but I want you to be as candid and open about who you are and share as much as you like with the audience as you introduce yourself. Because I know you are Louisiana born and raised, so I want you to talk about that bio a little bit.
I hate talking about myself because this space has been such a very strong space for the last 3 years because of the misinformation, different disinformation, people jumping into a lane they had no business in, trying to muddy up the water. But at the end of the day, we're realizing the truth. The science always comes out at the end, and that is a God-given grace that the science will always show you the light at the end of the tunnel. And one of the things I do is hate talking about myself. But one thing I've kind of learned in this space over the last 3.5 years, because America is so it's really screwed up because you can't take people from face value. You got to tell people who you are. You just can't just be a nice guy and just say, hey, this is what it is. People want to question your authority because the people that were questioning authority in the past, maybe they were the screwed up ones. Maybe they didn't have the qualifications to be able to navigate in this space. But at the end of the day, I'm an infectious disease specialist. I have multiple degrees. You know, I've been on multiple different platforms. I've worked in some of the hardest places on the planet in saving people's lives from diseases that people even laugh about: diarrhea diseases, tuberculosis, HIV, malaria, dengue, Ebola, etc. And this is my life that I've been, the road that God gave me was to be in the field saving people's lives. I didn't have the opportunity to be drinking a cup of Tai Chi from Starbucks in Idaho, in Pocatello.
Mm-hmm.
Out there, I was the guy getting bit by the mosquito. I'm the one that got the leeches on me, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So at the end
Right.
of the day, my pedigree is what it is, and the history always doesn't lie. What it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your commitment to um the medical field, the work that you've done, the work that you are, will continue to do, especially the messages that you have shared, the raw truth about things throughout this pandemic. And so I appreciate you. I remember when I first, we lost him. I'm sure he'll be back. But I was going to say, I remember when I first was connected with Dr. Rowland, his daughter had him as a guest on a podcast. Is how I first saw him, probably more than 3 years now ago. And that was the beginning of how I kind of found out about him. And so I thought that was really, really cute. And then an organization that I was a part of, one of the ladies in the group actually shared him with our group. And so hence is how I was connected. Doc, I was just telling them how I first was introduced to you through a show that your daughter interviewed you more than 3 years ago. That's how I first heard of you.
Wow, small world, but yeah, a lot of people did. My daughter was one of these individuals that was the millenniums. They were scared of the pandemic. Their lifestyle was about to change. They were in quarantine. So all of a sudden, she remembered her dad was an infectious disease specialist.
What an amazing connection, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about where you are with this um, virus, or where we are as a nation, as internationally. Where are we? We knew what we knew back in 2020. We listened to the public on so many aspects of the virus. Take us back and bring us forward.
Well, I mean, in reality, when the virus first started off in 2019, the virus probably started off in 2018 in China. We've gone full circles. At that time, we didn't have a vaccine. It was all about biosafety security protocols and understanding what a mask is used for, understanding washing your hands, understanding rural microbiology, understanding what a wet market is, and how diseases jumps from animals to man. And so where we're at today is that we're still in the middle of the game of the COVID pandemic, which is not pandemic anymore. Like I educated you folks about, pandemic is worldwide. The disease itself, COVID or the virus itself, is endemic now, which means it's in our society, and it will be here for the next 1,000 years. It will replace the common flu. This is the reality that you have to understand. And the reality is that I got a call earlier today from a family that didn't have COVID for 3 years, and both their children turned out positive day for COVID. So COVID is our new norm that we're going to have to deal with and protect ourselves from. And this is our reality from the beginning stages of no vaccine to having vaccines to understanding biosafety, wearing masks to where we're at today. And people need to realize that the COVID virus is not going anywhere. Very mutagenic RNA virus changes all the time. And you folks are going to have to always remember your biosafety security protocols, because you don't want to be that individual that gets infected and end up with a bad outcome.
And so with that being said, the protocol. Can we talk about that protocol?
Well, the protocol is simple. We taught you before there was even a vaccine about understanding why wear a mask. We understand that the virus is this particular virus is transmitted in three different ways: feces, secretions, and also aerosol and contact. And the reality is that if you understand how diseases are transmitted, you can protect yourself. If I know I'm dealing with a respiratory disease, I'm gonna get on an airplane or go on a subway. I'm going to wear a mask. Period. I just flew a couple of weeks ago to Little Rock, Arkansas. I had a mask on. I don't care what everybody else was doing because this disease has an airborne component. I understand if I'm touching an ATM machine, Wells Fargo, Bank of America,
Mm.
putting my ATM number at the gas station pump to put gas in my car, I better make sure I don't take my hand and touch my face. I put my finger in my eye, put my finger in my mouth. I better make sure I wash my hands. When I'm at a store, understanding the dynamics of transmission. Now we know that COVID is found on Brussels sprouts, strawberries. It's found on packages and stuff. So now it might behoove you to make sure that you go ahead and sterilize these objects that you're touching, and what we call these inanimate objects that you have to take care of because viruses and diseases can live on these boxes. For example, my mother got sick 2 weeks ago. She hasn't been out of the house in 2 years. Where did she get it from? Well, more than likely, she probably got it from the mail was brought into the house that wasn't sterilized. So these are the smart things that we have to think about and continue to do, i.e., having people come to your house and wear the shoes in the house.
Wow. I'm sure he'll be right back, but he's sharing with us protocols, some things we should think about practicing for the rest of our lives, in essence. And so, wearing a mask, you know, taking the shoes off before we enter the home. Um, okay, Doc.
Yeah,
we-
so stuff, so stuff like that, this common sense that Big Mama taught us many, many years ago is still in effect today. And we have to continue it because we're not just dealing with COVID, we're dealing with all types of different diseases from respiratory syncytial virus, RSV. We're talking about syphilis, congenital syphilis. We're talking about a really emergency of HIV in 13-year-old kids and stuff. So these diseases are here. So if you understand the principles of understanding microbiology, you will be able to navigate yourself to the other side. Very, very important. Simple concept. Before there was vaccine, there's always the solution to pollution is dilution. Wash your hands, wearing a mask, something simple.
Wow. So, we need to make sure that we continue to do that forever. Basic, basic skills,
In
basic
this
practices.
in this lifetime, you're going to have to. Like I told you guys 3 years ago, and you guys thought I was crazy about booster shots. You will be getting 50 booster shots for the next 100 years. It's changing all the time. This is the reality that we're dealing with. So your new world is a world of infectious diseases that you have to understand and navigate in. I mean, right now in Africa, they're having an outbreak of a virus called Marburg, which is one of the first hemorrhagic diseases like Ebola. So these diseases are here. They're going to continue to be here. And the bottom line at the end of the day, you folks just need to understand the basic fundamental of protect yourself. Wash your hands. Your kids come home from school, make sure they wash your hands. Make sure you wash your clothes and stuff. This is our new norm. And so this is an endemic infection. And these diseases from COVID to all these other diseases are not going anywhere anytime soon.
One person just put a question out there. Do you recommend each booster as well as the flu vaccine and many injectables like shingles vaccine, etc.?
I recommend all vaccines out there besides the COVID vaccine because it hasn't proved its worth. That's just the reality. The reality is that the most important vaccine that you can get in the COVID spectrum is getting the pneumovax vaccine for pneumonia. Prevnar 23, Prevnar 21, because that is what ends up making people severely sick is the pneumonia. There's a vaccine called Pneumovax that you can get at your local CVS pharmacy. Walgreens is usually for free that will protect you from the most desired bad controversial consequences you can get with these respiratory diseases, pneumonia. This will protect you. Now, all the other vaccines, the vaccines of measles, mumps, rubella, absolutely get them. I'm a pro-vaccine guy. They're going to protect you and stuff like that. But this booster shot for the COVID, it's not going to do anything besides set you up for serious complications down the road because the vaccine has not proven itself. This is why people have gotten the vaccine multiple first shot, second shot, 3 and 4 boosters, and they're still getting infected. What does that tell you? And if the FDA tells you that this is not a shot for boosters, tells you everything you need to know about. If the FDA told Pfizer, we're not recommending this as a booster every month, maybe once in a year, that tells you everything you need about know about the platform. That's the reality.
Wow. So I've heard people talk about the vaccines having a profound impact on our lives, on our bodies for years. And even the conversation was had with some people that I know about heart attacks, sudden heart attacks as it relates to the vaccine. Do you think that that has had a impact on people's cardiovascular system?
Oh, absolutely. And the science has already proven it. I mean, you folks can go to my Instagram at Dr. Rowling at Instagram and look at the articles that I publish almost every other day about what's happening in the world and the world of science. And it's been proven that the vaccine has induced cardiomyopathy, cardio infarction, sudden cardiac infarct in young people, all the complications that a vaccine does have. I mean, this is when you look at this vaccine is still what we call experimental use. And this vaccine has been proven to induce what we call antibody dependent enhancement, which means it creates autoantibodies that attack your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, and all the other aspects of your body, even your brain. So this vaccine does not have the pedigree, and that's just the fact. That is why now when we look at this vaccine, you see on television every day they put on a vaccine. Get this vaccine for my shingles. Get this vaccine for my rheumatoid.
So we've heard, Dr. Rowland kind of speak about where we are with this virus and that the vaccine for COVID has not been proven, and there are going to be consequences. And I've been reading articles about it myself.
Yeah, but the point is that we look at these vaccines on television, a Super Bowl game, and they have 10,000 different things that can happen from that vaccine. You can have a rash. You can get encephalitis of the brain. This is the only drug vaccine induced that I've seen in the history of mankind. There's nothing about informed consent. This does not tell you about the complication. They can put Pneumovax on television for pneumonia, which I've talked about for 3 years, that will save your life, and talk about everything that can go wrong. But this is the only vaccine that doesn't have nothing. It's absolutely perfect. That's a lie, because we know that the vaccine has caused menstrual problems in females, bleeding in females. It's caused heart attacks in young people, sudden infarct of events in young folks running or playing soccer. We can go down the line from Bell's palsy to shingles, etc. So do not drink the Kool-Aid. This vaccine is like any other drug. It has complications, and the complications outweigh the benefits of it, because at the end of the day, folks, I'm sorry, the natural immunity will always outweigh this vaccine in a million years.
And you said that back in 2020, and you're holding true to that 2023.
Absolutely. We've already shown the studies that kids that get the vaccine versus somebody with natural immunity, the natural immunity in children lasts up to 10 months. We know that the Pfizer vaccine, I've said this 3 years ago, only lasts 81 days. What does that tell you? You're going to have to be getting booster shots the rest of your life, every quarter. Mm-hmm. And this is the reality, that the vaccine does not have the pedigree to say what it's going to do. In fact, I will argue there are a lot more negatives to the vaccine than there are positive, especially on this particular vaccine. The SARS-CoV vaccine just because the science tells us that when we're dealing with coronavirus itself, there is no natural immunity via the long-term immunity via a vaccine. It's not going to happen in a million years. It's impossible because the virus changes too much.
Right. And the mutation has happened. Do you know how many times since it came out? You probably can't even keep up with that. Or have you been able, has anyone been able to keep up with that?
No, you can't keep up because every day is a daily mutation in the virus itself. And so when you look at if we just take a simple concept and we look at the initial alpha virus, they had one mutation. We'll look at the delta virus, they had 13 mutations versus the omega viruses, which has 75 to 100 different mutations. You can see the change. And people need to understand that why is natural immunity better than a vaccine immunity? Well, when you look at this mRNA vaccine, you're taking one component of the vaccine, which is the spike protein, which allows the virus to attach to your cell. So you make a vaccine, great. You inject somebody with that spike protein, you make antibodies to the spike protein, period. Well, it's an all or some zero game. If that virus mutates that spike protein, the vaccine, it's impossible for that vaccine to work. That's why we have all these outbreaks and reoccurrence and stuff. Versus somebody that gets infected with the virus naturally. The virus, when the virus gets into a person on natural immunity, the body sees everything. It's making antibodies not just to the spike protein, it's making antibodies to the core membrane, the envelope membrane, to the entire virus. So what would you rather have? Complete immunity to a virus or one portion of the immunity to a virus? And natural immunity wins out every day because it's attacking the whole complete virus versus one simple component of virus, which mutates all the time, which makes it a zero-sum game.
Wow. Someone just asked, Doc, what tests and injectables are most important for people over 50/60 years of age?
I think the most vaccines is making sure that you're up to date on all your vaccines and stuff. I think probably somebody over 50 years, if I had a number one vaccine that you should have, would be the pneumovax vaccine that prevents you from getting pneumonia. That's the most important. That helps you with influenza, the flu. It helps you with respiratory syncytial virus. It helps you with the SARS-CoV virus. Any of these respiratory components, that's what usually kills people in their 50s, 60s, 70s is the pneumonia. A bacterial pneumonia that you can treat and have immunity to by having a pneumovax vaccine.
And the same viewer, Michelle Williams, also says, so if not the COVID vax, how do we protect ourselves? By mask and washing hands only? So go ahead.
I think it's more situational awareness. I mean, if you're going to the beach and like I'm looking at the ocean right now, I'm walking down the beach by myself. I don't need to wear a mask, but I'm going to get on an airplane and fly from Las Vegas to Little Rock, Arkansas, or Las Vegas to New York, and there's a bunch of people in there. I think you should wear a mask because the density of the air, that air is contaminated. So you have to have situation awareness. If I'm going to Walmart and I'm going to grab a cart handle, I better make sure I have something to sterilize my hands or make sure I don't put my hands in my mouth. I need to understand if I'm going to the Chicago O'Hare Airport and I'm using the bathroom in the airport, you realize feces is everywhere, infected with viruses and everything else. You better make sure you disinfect your shoes. Make sure you don't touch anything in that bathroom. These are the things that we have to think about. The situational awareness. Each situation is.
So I'm sure Doc will be back on in a minute, but situational awareness, I guess understanding your environment before you get there and adjusting to that environment so that you can protect yourself as best as you can.
Yes, and I agree with that. So every situation is different. That's why we call it situational awareness, being cognizant of the environment you're in. If I'm going to a concert to see a concert or a football game, I better understand that my chance of getting infected is going to be tremendous. Maybe I might be the only person wearing a mask. Maybe if I'm taking an air flight from New York to England for 7 hours on a flight, maybe I need to put on a mask. So everybody's situation is different. And that's how we have to live. Our next 50 years is what we call understanding the situation and be able to adapt to the situation for that particular situation.
Okay, so Katasha said those are some really good tips. And another viewer, Stephanie Norman, said, what would you recommend a person do to boost their natural immunity to the virus?
Well, the most important thing is having a good psychological outcome in life, being positive, not depressed. That's very important. Having a good lifestyle, eating, having a great diet, exercise, all the things that a human being has. What we call activities of daily living are different for every individual. Maybe walking something you do every day. Continue to walk. Maybe you have a dog that you like to walk with a dog. Maybe you like going to the gym and swimming. All the things that put you in a positive atmosphere, a positive space, is what you need to continue to do. That's going to boost up your immunity. Taking a vitamin every day,
Mhm.
is central. But is there some juju juice from Africa that's going to make you a super immune system? Absolutely not. Nothing. You control your immune system by the lifestyle that you choose to live.
Oh, Doc, would you recommend, making sure that we take plant-based vitamins?
Oh,
I know we
absolutely.
talked about, the diet, which is so important.
Oh,
Having a healthier diet so that our body is healthy,
oh,
right?
absolutely. One of the things I recommend for a lot of African Americans that we don't talk about is going to get your normal blood work up. Get your vitamin D levels, get your vitamin C levels. We can measure vitamin D. We know that African Americans or people of color have a deficiency in vitamin D, which is an important part of the immune system because of the using the sun to help hydrolyze that vitamin. So something like that, measuring what your vitamin D level is, you can get that measured. And if your vitamin D level is low, then what you do is you go ahead and you take a multivitamin to get your D level up. So these things we can control, but at the end of the day, it's our basic lifestyle that's going to help you navigate in this new world that we're living in.
Yeah, I know I had some issues with vitamin D levels being very low, and I had a prescribed vitamin D regimen for a while, and now I just take vitamin D over the counter, in addition to the multivitamin.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
you,
So
yeah,
you have the experience of having a vitamin D deficiency, and you took vitamin D, and you see where we can measure that particular defect in you, and you can fix that defect by taking a multivitamin or a vitamin D to help you with the immune system. So people have a lot more control of their health than they think they do.
yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned going to have your blood work done, because so many people do not visit the doctor at all or think that it's not of value. And getting your blood work done to see just the basic assessment is important.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a problem that we have with a lot of African Americans or people of color that we really don't trust the healthcare system. And our grandparents can tell you about the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. So people have a very high suspicion of doctors, especially white doctors, taking care of black patients because the white doctors, on the most part, don't take care of us black folks.
Mhm.
More likely to cut your leg off than trying to save your leg. So we have a very mistrust in the healthcare system, and this is one way we can try to get ourselves back into that and trust the system is being able to measure stuff. I can measure a vitamin D deficiency. I can measure increase in my sugar. I can measure these. These are real numbers that we can rectify and fix and stuff. But at the end of the day, we have to get confidence back into the healthcare system, and not because it's COVID. We have to take care of Big Mama's sugar or Big Mama's leg. They should have been doing that 5 years ago, not because of a virus, especially the COVID virus.
And Doc, as we were talking about health, and it's so important, I even had a deficiency in potassium one a few years back and did not realize it. But because I went and had the blood work done, right? My doctor called me at work. This was in 2019, the summertime of 2019, and said, I need you to go to the ER right now. I said, right now, doc? She was a black female. She said, right now, I need you to go directly to the ER because your potassium is so low, you could go into cardiac arrest.
Absolutely, and this is one of the things that we have at our in our space. We can have measurements of our laboratory work. Another thing that I recommend for people in this COVID new world that we live in is that everybody should, I mean, even young people should go get an echocardiogram on their heart or get an EKG on their heart, because now we know that the vaccine has caused increase in cardiac events from myocarditis, et cetera. Also, the fact that even people that get COVID have.
I'm sure his connection is kind of you know, unstable. So he'll be right back in. But, you know, while we're waiting for him, I just want us to be very conscious and really take this conversation to heart as it relates to health, because being in optimal health will help prevent all of diseases. And so as he's talking about,
And
you know, go
one of
ahead.
and one of the things I recommend is that everybody in this new age, in this new space, should get an EKG, an echocardiogram, or getting a stress heart monitor on your heart, because we don't know what the ramifications are. Even with the vaccine, we know it's fact it has increased cardiac events. We have a lot more deaths now in people cardiac. So in this time and age, if you have the wherewithal, the ability, go get an EKG, get your heart looked at. So even your kids that are playing sports at 14, 15 years of age, you should go ahead and get a heart profile done on them, so you don't have one of these sudden cardiac events, just like the NFL football player or the guy that just died yesterday in soccer in South Africa. So yeah, these are very important little parameters that we can't control.
Yes, yes. Someone asked, can our pets be infected with the virus?
Absolutely. I've talked about that in the initial 3 years ago, that the dog, your cats are also carriers of COVID. Dogs have given COVID to their owners, and the owners are giving COVID to their pets. In fact, we know for sure that one of the big contributions to the pandemic was the animal called the mink out of the Europe, where they were infected, passing it back and forth, and they created a new super variant called the mink variant out of COVID. As long as there's animals on this planet, there will always be COVID. And if COVID is found in dogs, cats, dolphins, birds, monkeys, bats, etc., as long as there's an animal vector, there's always going to be the COVID infection. So that's why it was really, really kind of funny when people were talking about, well, the COVID is going to go away with a vaccine. COVID is never going away in a billion years, because it's found in every animal. A deer hunter could kill an animal this year during deer season, honey, and catch COVID from that deer. That is the reality that we're dealing with. So as long as people understand that the COVID is found in animals, there will always going to be a COVID infection, a billion years. And we have to understand, when people start talking about, well, we're going to vaccinate, you're not vaccinating yourself out of anything. It's impossible, because the virus lives in the animals. The only disease that we've ever really vaccinated ourselves out was with smallpox. And people don't understand that with smallpox, folks, there's no vector. There's no animal vector to harbor in society. You treat it, it goes away. COVID is different. As long as there's animals, there's always going to be COVID infection. That's just the way it is.
Wow. And then someone else just asked another question, Doc. What about the babies born during COVID? Have there been any defects or disabilities tied or related to being born during that time? Moms were told it was safe, but was it really safe for those babies and the moms?
Absolutely not, because I'm one of the lead authors for the Zika infection that has a neonatal component to it. Zika is an RNA virus. Same thing here. We're still in the middle of the pandemic. Babies are born at 3, 4 years of age now. What is a cognitive defect? Because we know that the virus can go across the placenta. We know that the virus can affect the neuronal cells in the brain. We know that the virus can affect the first trimester of a female's pregnancy. What is the long-term consequences of either the virus itself or even the vaccine? We still don't know. We're going to know in about 4 or 5 more years, when we see the intelligence levels of these kids that are born in this pandemic situation. So that is a big question that we still are finding out, and the science will catch up to that question. that these females that were pregnant during the pandemic, what is the long-term consequence of your child? Cognitive defect, mental retardation, or development delayed? We're still learning.
Wow. Woo, it's a lot to think about, a lot to ponder, okay? I had a grandbaby and a nephew born during the COVID season, and so many other millions of babies born throughout the world. So that's a lot right there.
It is a lot, and I've been in the front, and I've been in the boots on the ground. I've been in the jungles of Peru getting samples of females pregnant with Zika diseases. I've done the studies with some of the top institutions in the world. We know that Zika had a cognitive defect on children. And I know for a fact that we're going to have the same type of effect on these individual babies born during the pandemic because the virus itself, coronavirus, has the ability to affect the neuronal tissue. And that tells you everything you need to know. And the virus can go across the blood brain barrier and affect the brain. That's why people have the mental fogness. That's why people have sluggishness. That's why we have all the complications, increased Alzheimer, Parkinson's diseases. I can go on and on. So there will be an effect because the virus has a disposition or what we call trophism for the brain cells in the brain.
And I didn't catch COVID until 2022. And I have been sick with the flu like episodes like 3 times since last November. And I oftentimes think about the ramifications of or the lingering effects of COVID, what COVID had on my immune system. Doc,
Well,
I was just saying that,
yeah.
I had, COVID in 2022, and I had the flu probably 3 times since October of last year.
Well, this is a reality that we have, and that's that famous word that we talked about. I talked about this 3 years ago. We're going to spend more money, not on the acute situation for COVID. We're going to spend more money on the chronic situation of COVID, i.e., long-term COVID complications, i.e., mental fog, fatigue, heart complications, heart, kidney, sterility in females and males, etc. This is the reality that we're dealing with, and the long-term consequences are significant. And now we're finding out people have chronic pain from COVID. We have people that have chronic fatigue syndrome, which is common to most viral infections, but also with the COVID virus, because the COVID virus has the ability to affect every tissue in your body. So from your eyes to your brain to your kidneys, heart, lungs, skin. So you're going to be able to see every type of long-term complication from the COVID, and we're just still in the beginning of this pandemic, endemic infection.
Yeah, and I can testify to that, Doc, because since I had COVID, my vision has diminished. My memory has been very sluggish. I've had a few episodes with the heart thing, so I'm, having the heart checked out with the echocardiogram, the heart monitoring. I go back next week to talk to the cardiologist about all the results, all of that, right? That's real life stuff.
Well, this is real life now, and so what's happening is that now we're finding out the real life situation. This is not about misinformation or disinformation, because the people that were touting a certain way, you can't find them anywhere. I call them the cockroach syndrome. They're gone. They push the narrative wrong. Where you at today? Once you tell people about your complication, have people get on your platform like a Roland Martin, tell you how crazy you are. Maybe your menstrual problem is a psychological problem, and I will argue there are millions of people that have complications and they're real, and we will address these issues. But the bottom line, at the end of the day, your complication is real because you're living it every day. They're not.
Yes, and it is real. I can't even tell you how many of my female friends are having menstrual, when I say heavy, excessive menstrual complications over the last year. Unbelievable.
Oh, I can believe it. I had the opportunity about 2 years ago to talk to about 10,000 females out of Europe that were having menstrual problems because of the vaccine. that is a reality. So you guys are not psychologically crazy, because I don't see these guys. I don't see the Roland Martins talking about a vaccine now. In fact, what you guys should do is start suing these people that push the narrative and you got the complication from. Because at the end of the day, did you have informed consent? Did you sign some waiver that says, I know this vaccine can cause all these complications? Or did they tell you, oh, you take the vaccine, you're never going to get infected again?
Mm, mm. It's going to protect us. And I didn't want to take the vaccine. Let me just put that out there, Doc, because I believe in being transparent. So it took me probably 2 years before I did it. I was cursed out, called all kinds of things by family members because I had not taken the vaccine, right? Called stupid, all kinds of stuff. And I think I was bullied. Can we say bullied at the age of 57?
I say the word
Can we say bullied? Okay. Bullied into it, and I regret it.
And where they at now?
They're still around.
But you still got COVID.
Right.
You still have all the complications. So what Kool-Aid were you drinking? With no
Yeah.
shit?
I really wish that I had not.
Yeah, they were the idiots now, and this is the problem that we have in our society. Sometimes people go down a certain narrative, they talk a certain game, and then when the game is up, you can't find them. I call it the cockroach syndrome. Where
Yeah.
are they now? Tell me why. Why'd you
Yeah.
why'd you force her to get a vaccine when we know it don't work?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
because you were the idiot that didn't understand the science.
Yep.
Because that's the sad part about it.
Mm-hmm.
You have every right to sue these individuals for every bit. Same thing. Hey, I've done it before. Hey, I'm doing surgery on a baby. I got to tell them the complications, pain, you can die, all that nasty stuff that you want to tell people because you want everything to be nice and glorified. But why didn't it tell you all the complication when you guys went down and got your shot and they gave you a Subway sandwich? Do you
Yep.
even, do you even know, do you even know who the person was that gave you the shot?
Right.
Person, or there was just somebody hired off the street to jab an arm and stick it in you and shoot it. Where they
Yeah.
at? See, this is the sad part about it.
Yeah, it really is. And I started my podcast, Doc, 3 years ago on April the 16th because of COVID, and because the book that I authored first, Is Your House in Order, was so appropriate at that time because so many people were dying, right? Left and right. I mean, just all of a sudden not having their affairs in order. And so let's speak to that for a quick minute. I made sure when my husband died in 2015 from a sudden heart attack that I went and, oops, he's gone, but he'll be back. But I made sure that I went to the military installation, to the legal office, and had all of my personal affairs done because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't a hypocrite. A hypocrite meaning that I was talking the talk, but I wasn't walking the walk. So I made sure I went to that military installation, had all of my power of attorney, my wills, my last will and testament, my advanced medical directive done, everything. And so when I started the podcast on April 16th, 2020, I wanted to make sure that that was resounding, particularly during that season because of COVID. And I still talk about that today. And we need to make that a conversation, particularly amongst the African American community, so that we don't leave our families in a devastating position because of sudden loss.
Oh, absolutely. And this is one of the things about this COVID situation. I'm hoping that's going to happen. We better get our affairs in order.
Right.
Bills, directives, end of life care, et cetera. And then understand, do you have enough health insurance to be able to get to the other side? These are the things that we have to have that hard conversation where we're not allowed to bury our head in the sand and hope it's going to get better. You have to have a plan to be able to navigate to the other side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I can't say it enough. My goal is to travel the world to really speak to this topic, to really encourage people to not only think about it, but move to the next level of action and getting it done. And so with that being said, we have Michelle coming back. She says, is there a test that can be taken to detect cancer in the body, or do we have to have these tests done on individual areas? So she's saying, is there one test that can determine if something is cancerous in the body?
Yeah, we have tests. We have genetic testing from the BRCA gene for breast cancer to some of the colon genes that we know that people have the colon gene, they have a higher rate of cancer. That is why modern technology and medicine is so beautiful. We're getting down to a molecular level where we can determine if somebody's going to have a particular disease or an outcome of what could happen in the future. So there's tests for that. And if you have the ability and insurance and you really want to know, go get that profile done. It helps you prepare for the future. You might not get that disease, but you still have the potential. For example, every one of us have 20 oncogenes inside of our body. These oncogenes are genes that causes cancers, from breast cancer, colon cancer, you name it. We all have genes for cancer. The question is at what environment turns that cancer gene on? You get the flu and it turns it on. You get the COVID, it turns it on. You get a vaccine because we know for a fact that the COVID vaccine has had the consequences of reactivating people's cancers.
Mm.
So you have to understand that there are tests out there that you can do that get down to the molecular level that will predict what diseases you might have. That might be something useful for you if you have somebody in your family that has a particular disease that's dying young. Maybe you can avert that by understanding your own history of your own medical problems that you potentially have.
Yeah. And you know, it's ironic that we're having this conversation because I had um the the cancer assessment done last year because two sisters, one my dad's daughter, one my mom's daughter, both had breast cancer, right?
Right,
And so I went to my doctor, which was Kaiser at the time, and said that I wanted to do the profile.
right.
And so they not only did the breast cancer portion, but they did all of them. And I actually had the lady to come on my show to actually talk about that particular assessment and to encourage people to consider it, getting it done, you know, so that you can see where you fall in the spectrum.
Oh, absolutely. It's the same thing as people. I think people nowadays, if somebody says, "Doc, what's the laboratory test you need to have in this new pandemic, endemic COVID world?" You need to get an EKG. You might even need to get a stress angiogram to see if you have any blockage and stuff. You need to get some type of stress test on your heart. Everybody, and it just doesn't hurt you to rule stuff out. In fact, it'll probably save your life. You might be surprised that that examination will increase your quality of life because you have the information at hand.
Can we say that again? Because I have been pushing this heart thing, you know, and I try to be an example when I share on Facebook my journey and the things that I'm doing in hopes that people will say, well, maybe I should schedule an appointment.
My recommendation is COVID exam spectrum or space, not just the pneumovax vaccine for pneumonia that everybody should get, but people should get a baseline echocardiogram of the heart,
Yep.
EKG baseline, maybe even a stress angiogram to make sure that you're functioning normal, because of the fact that in this space that we see that the vaccine is causes induced cardiovascular events, and also the COVID virus itself has increased cardiovascular events. It makes sense. It's the COVID virus, no matter how you look at it, is the antibodies to it. So I think everybody should get the baseline stuff because it's going to help save your life and not hurt your life.
And can I say, when I go to my heart doctor, the practice, they're moving into a new building, and I'm sure it's because of capacity, right?
Right.
The parking lot is always packed to the max. So what does that tell us? The number of patients that they're seeing is going through the roof. And so you're on point because I've never seen it as busy as it's been. I'm sure Doc will be back in a minute. But at my cardiologist practice, it is so busy, like so many people. And so, yeah, I'm getting this ticker checked, and I'm encouraging everybody to schedule a doctor's appointment to get their ticker checked. Because once the ticker stop ticking, that's the end of life. So if we can prevent end of life prematurely by getting it checked, we need to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Any modalities that we have nowadays is a help, i.e., even getting a MRI of your brain, something simple, or X-ray, is can save your life. So these small little tests, and if people have the insurance and all that stuff, why not use it? The information is going to help you, especially it's part of that quality of life that we have to have.
And Doc, can you encourage somebody to be an advocate for themselves?
Yeah.
We have said, we've given them tips and strategies and things of that nature, but can we help them understand the importance of being an advocate for themselves when you have a doctor who seems very nonchalant?
Well, you have to be an advocate for yourself because at the end of the day, I've always told patients, we're not with you at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're in the hospital and they're telling you that you don't have any pain, or when you're crying, or maybe you have a heart surgery, or maybe you got your leg amputated. So you have to be the best advocate is for yourself. You have to demand it because you are an individual human being. You have a right to humanity, which is part of healthcare. So you need to demand that, i.e., hey, ask the hard questions so you can get an answer that you can articulate to apply that to your life. At the end of the day, folks, the only advocate is for yourself, is yourself. It's not
Exactly.
it's not the federal government, it's not Big Mama. At the end of the day, it's you taking care of yourself to make sure that you're pain free and have a wonderful, wonderful life to live, a life that we're entitled to here in America.
Absolutely. Someone else just asked, how accurate are the tests that detect the presence of antibodies in the body? Someone said, Stephanie said, I took one to detect COVID antibodies. How often should they repeat those type of tests?
I would say probably every 90 days because that's one of the things that I talked about in the vaccine realm. That the mistake that they made on a worldwide level, and especially in the United States, is that if you're going to give somebody a vaccine, you need to know what their antibody levels is. That determines if you have the ability to fight the infection. Well, Pfizer says it has antibodies that last 81 days. Well, if the antibodies last 81 days, what does that mean? Well, you're going to have to get another shot, another booster. But you can measure that, the antibody levels. Go down to your local lab, of course, say, hey, I want to get my COVID antibody levels measured. What's the number? Depending on what platform you use. It was Moderna, Johnson Johnson, Pfizer. If that Pfizer says is the number is 250 to have protection, well, you better have 250 plus protection when you do that measurement. And if not, then you need to change course. Or if you believe in the vaccine, you need to get another booster. Or your natural immunity is going to get you where you need to be at. But you can measure your antibody protection. And I believe right now that most people that got the initial vaccine, they have no immunity anymore because you're reinfected again. If you're getting infected 2, 3 times and you got a vaccine, that tells you how lazy or how bad the vaccine is. You don't get the mumps or the measles vaccine or rubella or polio, and you're getting a polio shot every week. You're getting the influenza
Mm-hmm.
shot every week. That's
Mm-hmm.
the reality that you have to learn. That's just common sense type of stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Michelle said she has I think it's an echo maybe exam scheduled for next week. So we want to say kudos to you, Michelle, for scheduling your test for your heart. We have Philippia Bowden, who said, I had COVID in 2020 and then again in January 2023. I have the same level of antibodies.
Well, I need to know what your number is because I don't know if that's the high end numbers or low end numbers. But if you do have antibodies, that tells you that was it from a natural immunity infection, you got infected, or it was through vaccine induced immunity. But at the end of the day, that number is very important because that's going to tell you if you have immunity to the infection and stuff like that. And that should be your guide. In any vaccine program, we tell people you never do a vaccine program in the middle of a pandemic. You create mutations, you create these monster viruses. But if you go down that road, you have to understand what are people's antibody levels. Do you have protection? If I inject you, you should be able to measure that antibody response. And anybody that's got injected with the COVID vaccine, 99% you don't even know what your antibody levels is. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you got placebo, or maybe you didn't have any response. And if you didn't have any response in numbers, maybe you're one of the people that need to be wearing a mask. Make sure you wash your hands. Maybe you're one of the people that get injected, you have high antibodies, which means that you can breathe just a little bit that you do have immunity.
Hmm. Wow. Someone said, Katasha said jobs were requiring vaccinations or risk job loss. Again, that's that bullying piece, scare tactic, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. I've written a lot. I've written a lot of letters for people on their jobs to give them exemptions and stuff. And the reality is that the people that were pumping that theory to you, you lose your job or get the vaccine, and you have a complication. You should sue that employee.
Hmm. I'm sure he'll come back. But Stephanie, thank you. Yeah, this is a great conversation and one that must be had often. um, Michelle, we're going to leave your question there for Doc. He's coming back.
Yeah,
Doc, Michelle had a question. She said, many people don't go to the neurologist. Should we only go if we have an issue, or should we go annually to the neurologist?
I think you should nowadays in this new world. You should see everybody anyway. You should see your kidney doctor. You should see your neurologist because the disease itself, the COVID virus, which is unique, is that it has what we call multiple trophism, which means it can affect every cell in your body, from your brain, your heart, your lungs, your testicles to your skin, etc. Gastrointestinal tract, people with chronic diarrhea, autonomic dysregulation, you should get everything checked if there's a problem. That's a prudent, smart individual in this new world, a pandemic, endemic COVID world that we live in.
And I know a lot of people probably think I'm just excessive with the doctor, but I'm just that person who, if it looks crazy or looks different, I'm going to check it out.
You should, and why not? I mean, you don't want to wait until your legs falling off to go see the doctor.
Right. And
Get it
I'm grateful to have, some really good health insurance to be able to do that. So I'm taking advantage of it.
absolutely. You continue to do it. I recommend everybody should take advantage of it. Doesn't matter if you're Medicaid or Medicare. Go get your exams done. Don't.
Hmm.
It might save your life.
Exactly. Philippia or Philippa said, what should the amount of antibodies your body needs to be protected? What is that number?
Each number is different. It's different for the Pfizer vaccine versus the Johnson Johnson Moderna. You have to look at their numbers that what they're saying, and then you need to look at your own natural immunity. And I don't know what your response is because every individual is high, different. You might be these individuals. I get COVID, I might be spiking millions of antibodies, and you might be these individuals that get infected might spike a couple hundred. So each individual is
It's
different.
individualized.
And you need to figure out what your baseline is.
Hmm. And that probably starts with an assessment at the doctor's office, right? Because
Absolutely.
I think I did an antibodies in 2019 because I had something similar to the flu the end of 2019. Um, and I think my doctor probably knew that this pandemic was coming at that time. As I think back on that stuff, I think she probably knew that it was coming. But yeah, she was checking my antibodies. I remember that.
I agree. I think everybody should have a baseline. That's just the way we need to navigate from here on out. Because at the end of the day, the COVID spectrum is a different spectrum.
Hmm. Hmm. Stephanie said we were talking about health insurance and we have to be willing to pay for it, even when insurance doesn't cover it. Yes, we do. We have to be willing to spend the money in that area to do the assessment.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100% with her.
Hmm. And change doctors if the doctor you don't have your concerns at heart of
You need
every
to.
visit.
I'll be the first.
Absolutely.
I'll be the first person to tell you if the doctor is not an advocate, is in your corner, is an adversarial relationship. Folks, kick that doctor to the curb and get you somebody that's for you. Because when you're dead and gone, they're gonna still be eating apple pie and fried chicken on Sunday without you in the world.
That's right. Next, and the jobs will post your position quickly.
Absolutely. You are expendable.
Yes, there's no non-expendable person. You are expendable. Next. So, Doc, is there any final words or advice that you want to share? It's always a joy talking with you. I'm hoping that one day you're going to come to Atlanta and we can have a live event. That's what I'm hoping for.
I'll when we schedule for the next 2 months, I'll be in Atlanta for some type of meeting, and then we need to do a live, just like I did with Rizzy Islam, going to the studio
Let's
and
do it.
just make it happen. You just set it up. I'll make it happen. I'll come there for a day, and we can do it live in the studio and make it happen. So, but at the end of the day, the information, folks, is going to be the information. And
Yes.
what I love about who I am is that I haven't been wrong yet. That's
Right.
the thing about it. From day one, I've called it like it is, and it's come to fruition. Everything I've said. At the end of the day, I did my job. I provided the information. I was able to go get schooled very well with all my degrees and educational experience and the work I've done. And I've taken that information that you folks invested in me through the U.S. government, the Army, to train me and give you guys back that information to save
That's
your
right. That's right. And I appreciate it more than you know.
life.
Also, Katasha said I had an EKG prior to testing positive for COVID. Do I need to get another one?
Well, if your EKG came back and it's normal, there's no arrhythmias, abnormal dysrhythmias, or anything like that, you're good to go. But I think nowadays, in this new world that we live, I think individuals should get an EKG once a year for at least the next 10 years, just to protect yourself. You know,
Yes.
at the end of the day, you don't want to have some type of sudden cardiac infarct or him dying young because something that you could have figured out just through a simple EKG. EKG.
I'm sure he'll be back. So hold that thought. But I'm glad that, if he comes, Stephanie, I'm sure to tell you so that you can come to Atlanta for that visit. And Stephanie, Doc, I know you were finishing up a thought there.
No, I'm just saying that at the end of the day, the test will save your life and stuff. So a simple EKG is something. It takes 10 minutes to do an EKG. No, it's not invasive. It takes you 10 minutes to get your reading of your heart, and your heart's very important to you. So people, be proactive of your own healthcare style. Be positive, be smart, and think outside the box. And don't be a clone this time. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, because when you look at it now, the so-called Dr. Fauci, you can't find him anywhere. I mean, the guy gets a deposition in front of the Missouri and Louisiana attorney generals for lying and what they did with the disinformation, misinformation. And this guy has 175. He don't recall. All of a sudden, you got brain damage now. But he's on television telling you guys what to do. You
Right.
guys, you guys should be offended by that.
Yeah.
How stupid they think people really are.
I think it was a motive behind it all, but okay, that's another conversation. So Stephanie said, that's what I love is the confidence, and nobody can take that from you. Um, she may be talking about you and she may be talking about me, but either way, we are both confident. Is that not right?
Oh, absolutely. You can look at all my interviews. You can go look at my last interview with Rizzy Islam, or, 500,000 people looked at that interview, on COVID and all the misinformation, disinformation from all my interviews with BNC and, Black News Channel. I've been 100% right and not wrong. And the
Mm-hmm.
sad thing about it is, as a black man in this space, if I was wrong, they would have crucified me. But the
Mm-hmm.
question is that they can't crucify you, because you know why? I am the book.
You're the truth.
I know what chapter 57 says on RNA viruses.
Mm-hmm.
And I teach this stuff. So if I see something different, I will let you know. But I haven't seen anything different. An RNA virus is an RNA virus, period.
Yes, point blank. And so, Dr. Rowland, I want to say again, thank you. And you're doing an amazing job, because one of my coworkers came to me, I think it was on Monday, and she said, I follow Dr. Lane Rowland, and I went to his page, and who did I see? A Dr. C. And I said, I know her. So that was so cute to hear her say that. She said, I've been following him since day one.
Well, you should have
And
told him that. You should have told him that me and you been have relationships for 3 years.
yes, we have. Yes. Yeah, I did tell him that. I said, yes, I know him personally now, I can say. He's like family. And I have his personal number, and I feel comfortable talking to him about anything. And so Philippa says, thank you, Dr. Rowland. I've been following you from day one also. And thank you, Ms. Connolly, for all the information. So you are welcome, because both Dr. Rowland and I truly believe caring is sharing. It is
Absolutely.
not holding out. And so I'm grateful to have you. I'm sure they are. And those who watch it on a replay or those who are watching today, I'm sure that they took away lots of nuggets. And I hope that you all have enjoyed this segment. And when Dr. Rowland comes to Atlanta, I will certainly let you all know so that you can be in the place, in the space, and meet him personally. So we
Absolutely, it's going to happen. I can promise.
yes, yes, I'm excited about it. And we just put it to paper. It'll
Yeah,
happen.
no, it's going to happen. I think we should do it in the next couple of months because I can't wait for April, May, because the reality, the science is going to always tell us where we're going. And you guys can read the papers every day. The science is telling you where we're going. You know,
Yes.
vaccine doesn't do what it's supposed to do. People running and hiding. It's just, it's a tragedy in a sense. You know, I call it the Tuskegee syphilis experiment at a bigger level in the modern world, that you guys, people got drunk the Kool-Aid with no sugar. And the reality, it doesn't taste very good.
Lord have mercy. Yes. So thank you everyone for watching. This was absolutely amazing. All that I thought it would be. Thank you, Dr. Rowland, for zooming home, for zooming home to be here and to share your expertise, your knowledge, your advice, everything to the world.
Well, thank you
So,
for on, and to your audience, continue to follow me and Dr. Conley. You know, we're going to bring a straight shooter, no chaser, keep it real. We still have a long ways to go and stuff like that. I will keep publishing articles that I think is interesting for you folks to understand what's happening out in the real world, from diseases from Ebola to monkeypox to HIV, etc. I think the next conversation that me and Dr. Conley are going to have maybe in a month.
so hold tight. He'll be back. Katasha, I'm so glad that you were on. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. Stephanie, Michelle, and you're right, Stephanie. It is my life's work. So I'm moving in that direction. There you go, Doc.
Yeah, like I was saying, that maybe our next conversation in a month, we need to talk about HIV in the 13-year-old kids that we're seeing, because black males have passed gay white males, and now we know that the HIV is endemic in 13-year-old black kids, boys and girls. So it tells you the dynamics that we have to change that equation and educate people, because the health of the African Americans is very important. And now we have the platform to get the information out to help.
Yes. I totally agree, because HIV could have affected me so many years ago, and I'm ready to talk about that. And even with my grandchildren now, talking to them about sex, unprotected sex, the consequences of it. Making the 11-year-old, I'm getting ready to have her to do some research on diseases, what they look like, what they feel like, what they are, etc., so that
Well,
we can be educated on this.
Well, you tell your granddaughter, more than likely I'll be teaching at Philander Smith College in Little Rock, and she can come there and become a scientist and learn under me about science.
Yes.
Need more black physicians, scientists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, we got to keep these kids motivated and, like you say, educated, because nowadays it's very, very, very dangerous with these diseases from COVID, HIV, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to educate people, and it starts at the young age, and
Young age.
not when they're young, old, and broken down, and they don't want to change. But it's time to educate our young folks and create more scientists and doctors and stuff. And I look forward to continue to do that with you, Dr. Conley.
Yes, that would be absolutely amazing. And someone said, can we talk about suicide and mental health?
Absolutely. We need to talk about that, because the suicide rates up
Oh my
because
goodness.
stresses of society, not just because of the pandemic, endemic, just the fact of people not finding their own identities. And we have to go back to where it used to be when we were kids, Dr. Conley. You got to believe in yourself. You got to get out there and go build a treehouse in the country, catch tadpoles, and not in this modern world where you're trying to figure out if you're a he, she, it, what. Hell, I'm lost now. But
Right.
the reality is, we got to get.
Me and my coworkers had that conversation today. You're right. And so it is such a complicated world, and it doesn't have to be, right? And so it does mess with your psyche if your head is not screwed on tight, it will mess with your psyche. And so I'm always talking about mental health and therapy and all of that that can help keep us healthy also. The mental part, the physical part, the emotional part, the spiritual part, all aspects of life.
Absolutely.
I don't actually want to just isolate just one part.
Absolutely.
Holistically. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely correct, Dr. Conley. It's not about one element. It's a holistic. It's everything included in that. But at the end of the day, we have to get back to our basic roots: discipline, determination, dedication. You got to work for it. This victimization is over with.
It's over with.
My dad slapped me when I was 3 years old. So what? If that means I'm supposed to go become a drug addict, not be successful, have an excuse, a crutch? Come on. Life is defined by what we go through sometimes. God says he put you through the fire to make you tough on the other side, make you stronger. That's what life is about: falling down, picking yourself up to get to the other side. Mm-hmm. Nobody in this world is going to escape this world without any pain. That's the reality. The question is, how do you handle that pain to get to the other side?
Absolutely. And, I'm on this, I've been on this health journey for a minute. I was almost 250 pounds, got down to 197, which was the lowest last year, toggled back up to like 210, and I'm back down to 200 because I decided that I must take this health thing very seriously and consistently for the rest of my life. And so I am meal prepping now, which means I am doing the work. Get your butt in the kitchen, meal prep some healthy meals, get your butt out there and walk, get some activity going so it can stimulate your heart, your mind.
Absolutely.
I just haven't found a good sex partner.
Well, you're gonna find somebody to rock your world. But at the end, you'll find that person to rock your world. At the end of the day, it's about the push-ups you do to get you to the other side. People don't realize the push-ups we do in life or what we're doing today. What I'm doing, talking to you right now, it's not about what's happening at this moment. It's what's going to happen 10 years from now. Yes. Do you perform or you don't perform? So every day is a push-up day. And as long as you got life in your body, you can always make change and be a better person and achieve your goals in life.
Yes. I'm looking forward to being the example on this side while I can.
I hope this was fun with you. It's always
it was always a good time. So I appreciate Dr. Rowland. We're going to let him come back in and close it out for sure this time. But oh, Katasha, you saying your EKG was normal and done about a month ago. So Doc, before we finish this out, Katasha was saying I think her EKG was normal and done about 1 month before being diagnosed. So I think she's really concerned as to having it done again since being diagnosed with COVID.
Well, sometimes it's good to get two or three tests to verify that you got. Sometimes never just have one opinion, have multiple opinions. Mm-hmm. You don't know what the EKG, the person that did that day, whatever the case is, always get repeated. Don't ever go by one diagnosis. Always have a secondary or third diagnosis to back up that initial diagnosis and stuff. And like I said, I'm looking forward to coming back in a month. We should do one on HIV in children and how it's affecting the African American community. We should do that in a month.
Actually I can schedule that and bring in this organization in Atlanta called Sister Love, and their focus is on HIV. So you, me, and them.
Well, I'm one of the lead science officers for the Black AIDS Institute, which is
I love it.
So I'm one of the top 10 scientists on the world on the Black AIDS Institute. I think I can talk about HIV.
I love it. I say let's do it.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. All right. So you have a wonderful evening, Doc. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I'll reach out to you and schedule that event for April.
Let me know when you're gonna post it so I can post it on all my social media because I want to get it out there from TikTok to Twitter to Instagram, Facebook, etc., YouTube. Let's get it out there.
And so tell them how to find you. Is it just so they know on all those platforms, Dr. Lane Rowland?
Yeah. Instagram would be Dr. Rolling, DRROLIN Rolling at Instagram. Facebook is Dr. Lane Rolling. Twitter, what's that? What's the one I got 25,000 people? Well, I can't remember all that. What's the other one? TikTok.
TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah, Dr. Lane Rolling on TikTok. And I got videos from RSV to herpes to, chicken, different diseases that keep people educated. And so, folks, follow me, follow Dr. Conley. Let's make it happen. And like I said, I look forward to seeing you in 1 month on HIV, AIDS, in the African American children.
Let's do it. So, all right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And you have a great one.
Take care, folks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So thank you all again for watching. Stay tuned for the announcement of the date in April when I will have Dr. Rowland back to talk about HIV in youth. The next show that we will have for this month of March will be March 23rd. We will have a conversation and a panelist to talk about Is Your House in Order? So I look forward to seeing all of you all on March 23rd. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome, Katasha. I enjoyed it and I love bringing it to you all. You guys have a great evening. Remember, I love you, but God loves you most and he loves you best. Peace, love, joy today and always. Stay blessed and encouraged. Take care. You're welcome. Thank you all for tuning in.